Do you get that meaty, it's almost bloody flavor? The soil is all iron oxide and manganese.
This might be the most heartbreaking scene in all of Better Call Saul. For just a moment, Gustavo Fring looks human, actually happy. But then he tastes blood instead of wine, and everything changes. This scene reveals Gus Fring's greatest fear, one that's been destroying him for decades. Gus Fring is supposed to be untouchable, the man who never flinches, who turns fear into a weapon. But Better Call Saul cracked open his armor and showed us something terrifying. 3 scenes that expose the one thing that haunts him more than death itself.
I don't believe fear to be an effective motivator.
But what if I told you that everything Gus does is driven by fear? And what's brilliant is how these scenes work together to reveal a truth that changes everything we thought we knew about the most dangerous man in New Mexico. Let's start with that wine bar scene from Better Call Saul's final season. On the surface, it's simple. Gus has just defeated Lalo Salamanca. The threat is over. He's finally free to live a normal life. So he visits his favorite wine bar to celebrate.
Mr. Fring, it's so good to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, too long.
What are you drinking?
The Dressler and Bond.
Do you get that meaty, it's almost bloody flavor? The soil is all iron oxide and manganese.
I have a confession to make. About a year ago, you mentioned a rare vintage from this same region. I went home that night, and I bought a bottle.
A 1978 Cote Rôtie? Mr. Fring.
Gustavo.
Gustavo.
I'm saving it for a special occasion.
Look at Gus's face here. This is Gustavo Fring completely unguarded. No mask, no calculation. Just a man who thinks he might finally be free to connect with someone. To be human again.
Do you get that meaty, it's almost bloody flavor? The soil is all iron oxide and manganese.
But then David says the word bloody. Watch how the warmth drains not just from Gus's expression, but from the frame itself. The lighting shifts cooler, the colors desaturate. It's the cinematography itself rejecting the fantasy, reminding us that Gus can't escape what defines him. And in that moment he realizes the truth. He can never let David in, because love is vulnerability, and vulnerability gets people killed. So he stands up and walks away, choosing loneliness over the possibility of pain. But here's what most people miss about this scene. Gus isn't just afraid of putting David in danger. He's afraid of something much more fundamental. And to understand what that is, we need to go back to where it all started. The moment that created this fear. The day Gustavo Fring learned that love equals death. This is where Gus Fring's greatest fear was born. Not in a boardroom or a meth lab, but beside a swimming pool in Mexico, watching the person he loved most die in front of his eyes. Hector forces Gus to watch, to see what happens when you care about someone in this world. Gus doesn't just lose Max. He loses his ability to be vulnerable ever again. A single, haunting image that follows Gus forever. From that moment on, he learns the most dangerous lesson. Love is a weakness that will be exploited. Now watch that wine bar scene again, knowing what we know. When Gus tastes that bloody wine, he's not just remembering his violent life. He's remembering Max. He's remembering what it cost him the last time he let someone in. David represents everything Gus wants but can never have. A normal relationship, a life without blood and violence, a chance to be human again. But Gus's greatest fear isn't death. It's the possibility that if he lets David in, he'll have to watch him die too, just like Max. But here's what I want to know. Do you think Gus could have ever broken free from this fear? Could he have chosen David over his empire? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because what happens next proves that his worst nightmare was justified. Because just when you think you understand Gus's fear, Better Call Saul shows us something even more terrifying. The moment when his worst nightmare almost comes true. When chaos itself comes knocking. This is the only time we ever see Gus Fring truly afraid. Not concerned, not calculating, genuinely terrified. And it's not just because Lalo has a gun pointed at him.
Está armando un imperio y lo único que estaba haciendo era cavar su propia tumba.
No me puedes matar.
¿Por qué no?
No le he dicho a ese cerdo de Eladio lo que pienso de él.
Perfecto. Pues tienes un minuto.
Eladio, el padrote hinchado y grasoso.
Watch his hands. He removes his tie but rolls it tight, almost ritualistic. It's a control mechanism, a way to stay calm when everything is falling apart. Because for the first time in decades, Gus isn't in control.
Es todo lo que hizo. Sin visión, ni paciencia, ni idea. Estúpido, impulsivo. Así es como hice todo eso.
Lalo represents chaos, the exact opposite of Gus's carefully constructed world.
Not yet.
And when that bullet hits his vest, the illusion shatters. For a split second, you can see it in his eyes. This is what vulnerability feels like. And it nearly kills him. After Gus kills Lalo, he doesn't celebrate. He doesn't feel relief. He's traumatized. Because Lalo proved that no matter how careful you are, no matter how many walls you build, chaos can still find you. Look at him here. This compulsive cleaning isn't about hygiene. It's about control. It's Gus trying to restore order to a world that just proved it can be taken away in an instant. And this is why Gus becomes even more isolated in Breaking Bad. Because Lalo taught him that his greatest fear was justified. That caring about anything, even his own life, makes you vulnerable. But here's the tragic irony that makes Gus Fring one of the greatest characters ever written. The very fear that he thinks protects him is actually what destroys him. Think about how Gus dies in Breaking Bad. He's so afraid of being vulnerable that he can't see the real threat right in front of him. Walter White exploits his obsession with control, his fear of chaos. Gus's greatest strength, his control, his calculation, his emotional walls, becomes his greatest weakness. Because he's so afraid of being human that he forgets humans are unpredictable. And that wine bar scene? It's not just about Gus being afraid to love David.
It's about a man who's so terrified of vulnerability that he chooses loneliness over the possibility of pain.
If this analysis just changed how you see Gus Fring forever, then you need to subscribe, because we're building an empire of viewers who appreciate the psychological depth that makes these shows legendary. Hit that subscribe button. I promise you won't regret it. So the next time you watch Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, remember this. Gus Fring isn't the villain because he's evil. He's the villain because he's afraid. Afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of loving someone he might have to watch die. And in the end, that fear doesn't protect him. It destroys him. Because the greatest tragedy isn't dying for love. It's never living for it at all. If you made it this far, smash that like button and let me know in the comments. What other Breaking Bad characters do you want me to psychologically dissect? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next breakdown. Stay dangerous.